Welcome. This is your movie gallery. Today we're talking about the movie called Survive, which was released in 2024. Movie begins a family of 4 is out on their private yacht in the Caribbean Sea to celebrate the youngest son's birthday. Ben's father, Tom, who is an oceanographer, teaches him how to fish while Ben's mother, Julia, who is a doctor, and his sister Cassie relax in the sun. Julia decides to go for a swim and dives into the water. After a few minutes, Julia feels something is wrong with the water but cannot figure out what it is. The compass on the boat malfunctions, but no one is near it to notice. Suddenly, Julia feels the water pushing her further away from the boat. Panic sets in as she tries to swim back, but she keeps getting farther away. Julia shouts for help, but no one hears her. Next, Tom hears a noise and checks the boat. He sees that Julia's drowning and calls for Cassie and Ben to come inside. Then he drives towards Julia, who is almost rowed, and dives in to save her. After rescuing Julia, Ben and Cassie help her come on board. Julia tells her family that she could not reach the boat even after swimming as fast as she could because the current was too strong. Tom warns Julia and the children that if they want to swim, they should always inform him first. That night, the family celebrates Ben's 13th birthday. Tom and Julia give Ben a new laptop while Cassie gives him a Halloween mask. Julia then gives Ben a bracelet to ward off evil spirits. The family takes a group picture. Next, Cassie's boyfriend calls her and she goes outside to talk to him. However, before they can talk for long, a storm hits where her boyfriend is and the connection is lost. Cassie tells her father what is happening and Ben hears something outside. The whole family goes out to check and sees many whales on the surface. Tom reassures them that this is normal and sometimes happens. But when the whales push the boat away, even Tom becomes confused. Then Tom decides to dive in and find out what is going on. He goes underwater and comes up after a minute, injured from cutting himself on the propeller. Julia stitches Tom's wounds and he tells them that the propellers are damaged. Since he cannot fix them, all they can do is call for help. Later, Julia and Tom try to contact someone on the radio while Cassie attempts to get a signal on her phone. But none of them have any luck. After a few minutes, they hear loud noises and step outside. Tom is shocked to see objects falling from outer space and one of them is heading directly toward them. He uses the last of the engine's power to turn the boat away from the falling object just before the engine blows. This quick action saves the family from being hit. As they watch the objects fall, Tom realizes they are man-made satellites coming down from orbit. However, with their engine destroyed, Tom and his family cannot go anywhere. Soon the boat starts to move as the waves grow stronger. So the family secures everything and puts on their life jackets. Suddenly, a high-pitched noise causes Julia's nose to bleed and makes Cassie throw up. The whole family is affected by the sound. Tom uses his last strength to light a flare, hoping someone will see them and come to their rescue. But no one arrives and the family spends the night on the boat. In the morning, they discover that the boat has many holes and as they step outside, they see that their boat has landed not on familiar land, but at the bottom of the ocean. Tom focuses on trying to contact others for help. When he opens his compass, it points north where south should be and south where north should be, almost as if the poles have shifted. Tom explains that this happened almost 1,000,000 years ago when the ocean shifted to land and killed nearly everything. Cassie breaks down upon hearing this, realizing it means her boyfriend is likely dead. She heads down to the cabin crying as she looks at her boyfriend's picture. Next, Tom tries to contact someone on the radio, while Ben hangs balloons high in the sky, hoping someone will notice them. Tom manages to reach a person named Now on a small submarine. Now explains that they were deep diving when the ocean retreated and that most communication systems are down. Now tells them that in just 1 week, the poles will reverse again and the ocean will return to its place. Ben asks how many people the submarine can hold and Now replies that it can only accommodate 3 people. With his partner gone, he can only take on 2 more. Tom and Julia beg Now to take their children and save them. After a moment of silence, Now agrees and sends his location. Tom calculates the distance and realizes they are 2 to 3 days away. The next morning, the whole family packs for the journey ahead. As Tom prepares, he sees a man walking toward them with his dog. Tom quickly grabs a bottle of water and approaches the man. The man drinks the water and Tom notices he is injured. Suddenly, the man punches Tom with the bottle and begins to beat him. Julia watches from a distance and tries to run to him. The man then stabs Tom with his spear, killing him. He turns his attention to Julia and chases her to the boat. Next, he throws his spear, scratching her shoulder, but she manages to climb aboard and lock the door. Julia hides the frightened children under the couch, which also serves as storage, and gives the flare gun to Cassie, telling her to shoot if anyone tries to open the couch. Julia then hides in the bathroom, but the man breaks down the door. She quickly patches her wounds while the man, looking very hungry, eats everything he finds. Next, the man opens the bathroom door but finds no one inside. Julia has escaped through a hole outside. The man's dog finds her and attacks. Julia is forced to kill the dog and continues to flee. The man comes outside and discovers his dog dead. Julia then rushes back into the boat, but the man is right behind her. He beats her and starts to strangle her. However, Cassie, watching in fear, shoots the man with the flare gun. The flare ignites a fire and the family runs out. Julia goes back for supplies and the man tries to grab her, but this time she fights him off and escapes. Outside, the family cries near Tom's body, but quickly starts to run again as the man is still alive and chasing them. After covering a few miles, they rest, but Ben refuses to drink any water. Cassie asks if the man came after them because he saw the balloons Ben put up. Julia tells Cassie to stop thinking that way and reassures Ben that it is not his fault. The family continues their journey with the man relentlessly following them. Later, Ben examines dead hammerhead sharks. When Julia notices the man is close by, they quickly run away from him and find themselves near some toxic waste. They climb a hill and take a moment to rest. Julia gives Ben the remaining water from a bottle, but is confused because it was full. Cassie thinks she left it unscrewed and Julia becomes furious. Cassie, however, gets angry too, saying that they will die anyway and that one bottle of water won't make a difference. The two shout at each other for a while until they decide to just move forward. Next, the family reaches a sunken aircraft and decides to explore it. Julia opens the door and they all rest inside. There, Julia finds the last picture they took together and cries because she misses Tom. She tells her children how she met Tom and that he always believed every problem has a solution. After resting for a while, Cassie walks out and sits alone near the plane. The man sees her and approaches to kill her, but this is a trap. Julia suddenly appears and repeatedly stabs the man, killing him. In the morning, the family sees the corpse of the man, which has been half-eaten. Julia realizes there must be something else lurking in the ocean bed and decides they need to move quickly. Next, they walk for a few more miles and Ben wanders off alone while Julia and Cassie check the map. Ben then finds some contaminated salty water but doesn't care and drinks from it. Julia runs to him and stops him, warning that he will get sick. Unfortunately, she is right and Ben becomes ill. Shortly after, Cassie and Julia make a shelter out of plastic chairs, and Julia treats Ben. That night they all sleep together, but Julia awakens after hearing something. She steps outside and hears a large number of animals approaching. She quickly wakes the kids and they run. Soon they find a ship where people are scavenging for food. Julia shouts for help, but the people refuse to assist them, saying they need to hide from the approaching animals. They close the containers and hide inside, leaving the family outside. Next, the family hurriedly climbs to the container. The animals turn out to be crabs and some of them bite and injure Julia. But the container has a hole in the bottom and the crabs start to eat every person inside. Despite their attempts to shoot them, Julia, hurt, covers her wound with a piece of clothing before passing out. In the morning, Julia wakes up alone and tries to find her children. A sandstorm rages, making it difficult to see, but she eventually locates them. They take weapons from the dead people and Julia sterilizes her wound using gunpowder and a lighter. Next, they find plenty of water and food near the containers, along with a radio. Julia uses the radio to communicate with Naof, telling him she is very close but cannot locate him. He instructs her to watch carefully as he will fire a flare into the sky. Now shoots the flare and Ben spots it. The family heads in that direction. Cassie asks Julia why she keeps saying "save my children" when talking to Now, but Julia does not respond. After walking for a few hours, they encounter a cave-like structure where rocks fall and separate Julia from her children. Julia convinces Cassie and Ben to go ahead because she cannot climb over the rocks due to her injured leg. Besides, she knows the submarine can hold only 3 people at most. Cassie and Ben run to the submarine and find now who is hurt. He tells them he will never make it out alive, so if Julia can come, they can all fit in the submarine. Cassie decides to go back for Julia and Ben gives her his good luck charm. Meanwhile, the crabs approach Julia and she begins shooting at them. But their overwhelming numbers far exceed her bullets and Julia cries in despair. Just then, Cassie appears on top of the rocks and tells her to climb as there is room for her in the submarine. Julia barely makes it out of the cave and they run together to the submarine. Next, they all enter the submarine and close the door. From the window they see they are surrounded by crabs. But soon the ocean begins to return. They quickly strap into their seats and brace for impact. The ocean floods the submarine, starting to rotate it while everything that has happened recently flashes before Julia's eyes. Finally, the waves calm down and they open the hatch. They have landed in a coastal city that has been destroyed. Once a lively place with vibrant beaches, it is now an abandoned area left for seagulls and other birds. Most, if not all, of humanity has perished, and finding any remaining survivors will be very difficult as many communication services are gone. Julia and her family are now left with the task of rebuilding humanity and starting over. But no one seems to be around to help them. Don't forget to share your comment below and subscribe to Moov Gallery.